Good evening everyone. Today's topic is norma lateralis. So norma lateralis, as you know, it is what we see when skull is viewed from the lateral aspect. So when viewed from the lateral aspect, skull presents the following features. So which all bones we can see. As you can see, we can see the lateral aspects of the frontal bone. We can see the parietal bone. We can see the occipital bone. This is the temporal bone. We can see the lateral aspect of zygomatic bone. This is sphenoid bone. We can see the maxilla. We can see the nasal bone, and we can also see the mandible. Okay, so we can also see the mandible. So that is the these are the bones present that we can see in the norma lateralis. So once more, you have the frontal bone, parietal bone, occipital bone, temporal bone, sphenoid, zygomatic, maxilla, nasal, and you have the mandible, right? Have the mandible. Now coming to the sutures, we can see, first of all, this is the coronary suture. So coronal suture, this is the coronal suture. You can see that this coronal suture is present between the frontal bone and the two parietal bone. You have the coronal suture running from one side to the other, and we can trace this coronal suture into the norma lateralis also. Then you can see the parieto-squamosal suture. This is the parieto-squamosal suture. This is the parietal bone. This is the squamous part of temporal bone. So this is the parieto-squamosal suture. Then you can visualize the lambdoid suture. This is the continuation of lambdoid suture. So if you recall, this is the lambdoid suture, which is a lambda-shaped suture that is present on the posterior aspect of skull between the two parietal bones and the occipital bone. So you can see that the lambdoid suture is extending to the norma lateralis. So you can see three sutures in the norma lateralis. You can see the continuation of coronal suture, parieto-squamosal suture, and you can see the lambdoid suture. Okay. Now what other features you can see? You can also see the temporal line. So temporal line commences at the frontal process of zygomatic bone. This is a zygomatic bone. This is its frontal process. This is its temporal process. So the temporal line commences at the frontal process of zygomatic bone. This is the frontal process of zygomatic bone, and you can see a line running from here, and that is the temporal line. Now temporal line, it will arch upwards and backwards. You can see that it is arching upwards and backwards across the parietal bone. Okay, it will arch backwards and upwards across the parietal bone. This is the parietal bone, and here it will split into superior and inferior temporal lines. This is superior temporal line will fade away, but the inferior temporal line is prominent, and we can trace it, and it is continuous here, and it is continuous here with the supramastoid crest of the temporal bone. This is the supramastoid crest. So traced behind, the superior temporal line will fade away, but the prominent inferior temporal line will curve downwards and forwards across the squamous part of temporal bone as the supramastoid crest, which is continuous with the superior root of the zygomatic process. Okay. So you can see that the whole thing is in continuity. And coming to the zygomatic arch, this is the zygomatic arch. It is a horizontal bar of bone which is formed by the temporal process of the zygomatic bone. This is the temporal process of zygomatic bone, and zygomatic process of the temporal bone. This is the zygomatic process of temporal bone. So together they will form the zygomatic arch, which is a horizontal bar of bone. It has got two surfaces. It has got an outer surface and an inner surface. It has got two borders. It has got an upper border and a lower border. So two surfaces and two borders. The upper border, as we have seen already, it is continuous in front with the temporal line through the posterior superior border of the zygomatic bone. So the upper border is continuous with the posterior superior border of the zygomatic bone, which is in turn in continuity with the temporal line. So it is continuous. Posteriorly, the upper border is in continuity with the supramastoid crest. Okay. Then coming to the lower border, the posterior end of the lower border is marked by a tubercle. That tubercle is the articular tubercle called the tubercle of root of zygoma. Here zygomatic process of the temporal bone will divide into anterior and posterior root. The anterior root passes medially. This is the anterior root which is passing medially, forming the anterior boundary of the mandibular fossa. This is the mandibular fossa where the temporomandibular joint is formed, right? So the anterior root will pass medially, forming the anterior border of the mandibular fossa. The posterior root forms the lateral boundary of the mandibular fossa. Okay, it will form the lateral boundary of mandibular fossa and terminate behind into a small post-glenoid tubercle. This is the small post-glenoid tubercle. Okay. Then coming to the external acoustic meatus. This is the external acoustic meatus. It is an opening just below the posterior root of zygoma. Okay, there is an opening just below the posterior root of zygoma. Its anterior wall, this is its anterior wall, its floor and the lower half of the posterior wall is formed by the tympanic part of temporal bone. This is the tympanic part of temporal bone. We have studied that earlier. This is the tympanic part of temporal bone. So, tympanic part of temporal bone forms the anterior wall, floor and lower half of the posterior wall, and its roof and the upper half of the posterior wall is formed by the squamous part of temporal bone. So, external acoustic meatus is formed by the tympanic part and squamous part of the temporal bone. Then coming to the suprameatal triangle, we have also seen that earlier. This is the suprameatal triangle or the triangle of McKeown. It is a small depression which is present postero-superior to the external acoustic meatus. Postero-superior to external acoustic meatus. It is bounded above by the supramastoid crest, in front by the postero-superior margin of the external acoustic meatus, and behind by a vertical tangent drawn to the posterior margin of the meatus. So, this is the suprameatal triangle. Above by supramastoid crest, below by the in front by the posterior margin of the external acoustic meatus, and behind by the vertical tangent drawn to the posterior margin of the meatus. That is the suprameatal triangle or the triangle of McKeown. Now the mastodantrum lies 1.25 cm deep to this triangle, and here you can see a small bony projection. That bony projection is called suprameatal spine or the spine of Henle, which is present in the anteroinferior part of this triangle. Then coming to this is the mastoid process. It is a marma-like process of temporal bone extending downwards behind the meatus. This is external outer meatus. So behind the meatus you have a process, that is the mastoid process. Then you have the asterion. So asterion is the meeting point of parietomastoid, occipitomastoid and lambdoid sutures. This is the parietal bone and this is the mastoid process. So this is the parietomastoid suture. This is the occipital bone, this is the mastoid process. So this is the occipitomastoid suture, and as I know, this is the continuity of the lambdoid suture. So here at its meeting point you have asterion. Then you have the styloid process. This is the styloid process. As you can see here, this is the styloid process. It is a thin, long, bony process of temporal bone, and its base is ensheathed by, you can see this is the tympanic part of temporal bone, and you can see that its base is ensheathed by the tympanic plate. Now it is directed downwards, forwards and slightly medial. Then coming to the temporal fossa. This is the temporal fossa. It is a shallow depression on the side of the skull which is bounded above by the temporal line, below by the zygomatic arch and the supramastoid crest. So this depression on either side of the skull, that is the temporal fossa. This temporal fossa will communicate with the infratemporal fossa through the gap. This is the gap between the zygomatic arch and the side of the skull. So this is the temporal fossa. Here you have the infratemporal fossa. So temporal fossa will communicate with the infratemporal fossa through the gap between the zygomatic arch and the side of the skull. Now towards the anterior part of temporal fossa, where the four bones meet each other, you have an H-shaped suture. where the frontal bone, parietal bone, temporal bone, and the greater vena sphenoid meet each other. You have an H-shaped suture. That H-shaped suture is known as pterion. So here you had asterion, here you have pterion, and this pterion has got a clinical importance. Pterion overlies the anterior division of middle meningeal artery, which can rupture following a blow to this region to form an extradural hematoma. Extradural means outside the dura. Extradural hematoma is a hematoma or a clot, blood clot, which is formed outside the dura mater, between the dura mater and the skull bone. Okay. And if the clot is very big, it can compress the brain, leading to unconsciousness and even death. Therefore, it should be removed as early as possible. So that is the clinical importance of pterion. If a fracture happens there, it can rupture the anterior division of middle meningeal artery. So that's all about the temporal fossa. Now coming to the infratemporal fossa. Infratemporal fossa is the region of the side of the skull below the zygomatic arch. Below the zygomatic arch or the side of the skull, you have the infratemporal fossa, and it is bounded medially by the lateral pterygoid plate, and laterally it is bound by the ramus of mandible. Ramus of mandible will be like this. So between the ramus of mandible and the lateral pterygoid plate, here you will have the infratemporal fossa. Okay, so medially you have the lateral pterygoid plate, laterally you will have the ramus of mandible, which forms the boundary of infratemporal fossa. You will learn in detail about infratemporal fossa later on. Then coming to the pterygomaxillary fissure, you can see a triangle shaped fissure here. That is the pterygomaxillary fissure. As the name indicates, it is between the lateral pterygoid plate and the maxilla. Pterygo as in reference to the lateral pterygoid plate, maxillary because it is between the lateral pterygoid plate and the body of maxilla. This is the maxilla, right? That's the body of maxilla. So this is the body of maxilla. So this is a fissure between the lateral pterygoid plate and the body of maxilla. That is the pterygomaxillary fissure. Here you have the infratemporal fossa, right? So the infratemporal fossa will communicate with the pterygopalatine fossa through this pterygomaxillary fissure. We will study in detail about pterygopalatine fossa later on. So this is about norma lateralis. Okay, thank you.